Yeah.
Yeah, so how this idea began was actually this week we have invited a paper engineer who's an origami artist. He's a mathematician who plays with paper and creates some lovely work. And I thought it'll be nice to have him and do some activity. But unfortunately, he called on Wednesday saying he had to, he couldn't, he's not able to make it. And we didn't have any backup for this Thursday. And so I was thinking, what do we do? And I thought we have a community. Why don't we sit together and talk about something? And what do we talk about? And when I was thinking, what do we talk about? I recently read an article. It says our brains are wired for negativity. The neuroscience article says. And I was kind of very stuck with it and went on reading few articles and I thought it's very interesting to sit with. And I called Ankita saying, why don't we sit with this question? And she said something beautiful. She said, when we call it negative, we're already taking the bias, right? Um, so I thought, Mother, you lead the session. So we'll hand over to Ankita. We'll lead. So this space today will be more of a reflective space. All of us will sit through some questions and see what comes out. Try and see what really difficult situations or negative situations mean to each one of us, and how do we cope with them, how do we sit with them, how do we live with them, and how do we learn to um, outgrow, or I mean grow from there. Do we really accept them or do we reject them? Let's see what it means to each one of us. Yeah, Ankita, you can begin.
Thank you, Sham. Um, yeah, so like Sham said, today, mostly this session and the next hour, it's mostly going to be more discussion oriented. So it would be beautiful if many of us are able to join and engage and share, and this becomes an intimate space, which it already is, but we embody that essence.
Yeah.
So before we move ahead and talk about emotions and difficult emotions and negative bias and all that, it would be great if we can just take a very deep, long inhale and an exhale, just a very deep breath together. Just take a moment to arrive in this space and just look at the screens. Whoever has their videos on, we can look at each other and we can look at other people's DPs. Yeah. So, just before we get into what the studies say and what do we already know about these topics, I would like to just bring up the question of what is emotions for all of us? What do we understand by emotions? We can just take a few moments and just think about it. Because we think a lot about thoughts. Everybody tells us about thoughts, that how are thoughts important, how we must still our minds, and every tradition talks about thoughts quite a bit. But today we are discussing about emotions. What are emotions? And as you feel like it, please come up and tell it out loud. That would be wonderful.
Emotions are feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Ambika ji.
And yeah, some emotions are stronger than others.
Yeah, is there a difference between feeling and emotion?
Mm, mm,
How do we look at this?
mm. Emotions or feelings as well. Is there a difference between feelings and emotions?
You feel pain, you feel happy, and happiness is an emotion. Do you feel an emotion? How do you look
Yeah.
at this?
Yeah, feelings and emotions. We can look at it as emotions are mostly, as we understand it, those are states, and
Mm.
feelings are the expressions of that state. And
Expression
our
or experience of the state?
experience, expressions, it's a little interconnected and a little fluid like that, I feel, because we
Mm.
cannot have objective definitions for these things as they are very subjective in nature. So experiences, yes, but it's our expression of that emotion. Like if there's a situation that I fell down and I hurt myself and there is pain in the body. So the emotion that automatically comes for me is we don't really know what that emotion is. It's a feeling of pain, physiological pain. But what is the emotion behind the pain? Maybe we are feeling shocked that we fell down. Maybe we are feeling shame, embarrassment. Oh shit, I fell down in front of my friends. Or maybe anger or sadness. So that's the difference. That
Yeah,
emotion is the state and feeling is the expression. Pain is an expression of a certain emotion that we might be feeling in the behind.
interesting. Mm.
Yeah. Mahaji has said emotion is a mind reaction to an incident. Metha says it's a body level experience of my feelings.
Mm.
Yes. Is there any community?
Anything else coming up? What an emotion means?
I'm also just thinking, so it all starts with body sensation,
Mm.
feeling some sort of either comfort or discomfort in the body. And
When you
to
say
extent,
body, where in body? Which part of the body? Is it in your fingers or hands or tummy or where?
it changes with, I mean, the way we are processing it. Maybe for me, if I'm feeling that my chest is heavy or my throat is stuck or some sort the same. I mean, the situation, the way somebody processes it is very different from an individual to an individual. Um, but we process everything within our body through something in the body. There is a shift in terms of feeling heavy, feeling sweaty, feeling pain,
Yeah,
feeling
yeah,
happy, elated, some sort of butterfly, some sort of anxiety. All of these actually happens within the body. But how do we label them is what I think it comes out as emotion saying we're angry or some significant, some probably very notable um, expressions, the emotions that is being shown is labeled, but everything actually happens within the body.
Hmm.
And that whatever happens within the body, the it depends upon how subtle or how deep we can feel that, right? Sometimes it's very subtle, we don't even notice. It's just probably a freshness on the sometimes it's just some sort of flashness on the cheek, and we don't even at that moment don't catch what is happening in that body. But
mm,
there is always some sort of body sensation that is happening when we are feeling, when you're processing something. And how sensitive we are or how present we are to notice that is another question. But I think it all happens in the body, is what I'm thinking.
DP says feelings we sense in the body and emotions are of the mind. Emotions are like stories we make out of the feeling.
Mhm. Yeah. Purnima also says that it is a state of mind at a certain point of time. Yeah. Okay. It's like beautiful answers. And is somebody saying something?
Yes, myself. I feel emotion is
Yeah.
something. Am I audible?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Emotion is something, it's your reaction to some situation or some incident. You recall that situation and, you get connected to that and you feel emotion. Feeling is something which you respond at the present moment. So someone said someone died. I didn't say that, but I feel emotion about that. Feeling is something right now I feel. Right now, responding to that. So I feel emotion and feeling is this.
So emotion is more like a mental state and feeling is
Yeah.
more momental in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment,
Completely.
yes.
Feeling is very subtle. I think it keeps changing every second. I think it's very. Emotion is as a large. It's like we can pocket that feeling as one. Say it's a happy feeling, and we call it happy emotion. I think I don't know. Yeah,
I
connecting
feel
her answer.
I feel it's a very fine line between emotion and feeling. It's sort of, feeling that you say, oh, some people they hide their feelings, they don't express their emotions, or they suppress their feelings or suppress their emotions. So I do think it's a very fine line between emotion and feeling. It's very difficult to, put them apart. At least for me, I feel that you can't really.
Or shall we say emotion is the name that is given to a feeling?
I think we can say that what thinking is to thought, feeling is to emotion. Can we say that?
Yeah.
So maybe it's a difference of verb and a concept. An action verb. Feeling is a verb. We feel. We are, by virtue of being a human, it's a tendency. We feel towards emotion. And we can say to a larger extent that emoting and feeling can be synonyms. Because, so yeah, basically now I'll just tell you what the larger scientific community has agreed to as the definition on emotion. So emotions, as many of us already intuitively understand, is they are responses, they are reactions, both from the psychological states and the physiology. And these are very complex layered responses. These are not at all at a single dimension, carries a lot of layers, any emotion. And it's a very subjective experience. That's another very important thing to understand about emotions, that it's very subjective to all of us. If I say anger right now, what anger is and how it expresses itself through us, it's very different for all of us and all the situations. So for such a subjective, innate experience for human beings, how is it that we tend to like sort of log out of emotions and log into thoughts in the modern day and lifestyle? How many of us think about our emotions on a day-to-day basis? Like, what is our relationship with emotions, our own emotional states? It's a very that the world has from us. It's very aligned towards having like very interesting thoughts and curious ideas and grand narratives, but very little, very few traditions or very few rituals in the houses, very few generational knowledge systems exist these days that actually tell us to regulate our emotions, how to be with. Yes, Ranjini ji, you have something to add?
I'm coming to learn from my practice of Zen Buddhism that the process of personalization is we are actually, whatever happens in the mind, the thoughts, the physical reactions that arise, they are all natural. They are anything else except that when we start personalizing it and call it mine, that is where we are getting stuck, is what I'm coming to understand. So the process of personalization is where the practice begins, where you recognize, okay, anger is coming up. Saying that anger is coming up is very different from saying I am angry. So the moment I say I am angry, I have already grasped the concept of anger, the emotion of anger, and I'm making it my own. So when I personalize it, that is when it hurts even more. So it is also called as the second arrow. The first arrow is something that is impersonal. All these processes, that we are born, and that many things keep happening from morning till evening. Our emotions keep moving up and down, as Sham had also touched upon it a little while ago. Our feelings are never stable. Within a span of 5 minutes, we undergo so many feelings and emotions. But it is when we actually say, "This is mine," or I am feeling it, that is where the problem starts. So when we learn to identify the second arrow, or the third and the fourth, it is innumerable, it depends on where we are at, that we allow the arrow to pierce us, then we are able to step away from the second arrow. That is when the practice begins. This is what I'm coming to understand. It is not easy. Theoretically, it is very easy to understand, but when you are actually practicing it, it requires a lot of awareness, attention, constantly being aware of where you are, where your mind is rushing to. What is it that you are giving your energy to? All of us are in some way definitely better connected to ourselves than so many others in this moment, because we are all here on this Zoom call, not elsewhere. That we are in this Zoom call itself shows that our frequency is more or less the same. And we do have the capacity to look at our own selves, our own operation of the mind. When you start looking at the operation of your mind and then step back, okay, so and so is shouting at me, how do I want to respond? Do I want to shout back? Do I want to use abusive words? Do I want to escalate the situation, aggravate the whole scenario? Or do I just smile? If not smile, at least say, may I come back to you later? You are, this moment. I don't want to be
Yeah, I think what
dysregulated
she's
too,
trying
so I
to
want to step
emphasize is
back.
on the power to recognize that emotion and be able
Yes.
to see the space between reaction and
Yeah.
impulse.
Yeah, and also attachment to the states of emotions, like very I can actually, so in Indian theater tradition, classical theater tradition, there is this concept of navarasas. And navarasas, essentially, they are the nine basic primary emotions that every human being encompasses. We all have those. So it's like the fundamental emotional level of all human beings, sentient beings. And above that, there is a secondary emotional level, which is much more complex, and it is straight away derived from the conditioning that we have received. For example, if So like we are walking in a group of 4 or 5 people, and there is this person that goes on and has this very expression of a lot of riches, and they're wearing this very pompy clothing, and they have this car and a lot of material to show off. So the 5 people who are walking together as observers, that frame itself, the image of that person with a lot of material stuff on himself, it will have a very different reaction. Somebody might feel jealous, somebody might feel detached, that okay, that's not for me. Somebody might feel happy at the other person's pursuit of material or whatever. So what makes these differences creep up in all of us? Why are we so differently wired? So to answer this question, it's always like in psychology and neuroscience, everything always comes down to context and conditioning. How we have been conditioned, how we have grown up, what is my relationship to shame, what is my relationship to jealousy, what is my relationship to anger, comparison, and all of that. So that's why these are much more complex emotions, and this is something that we have to actually get in touch with ourselves. We have to find that relation with our inner states and figure out. But for the primary emotions, where I brought in the Navrasa concept, that's something that's very easy to get hold on to, because it's our innate response. We know when we are feeling sad. We know when we are feeling angry. We know when we are feeling in love. And then when we go deeper into it, we might get into, oh, this is a feeling of disdain. Oh, this is a feeling, it feels very sinking to me. So then you see how it materializes into different frameworks and branches. So very quickly, if like whoever is interested, maybe we can do a very quick activity to understand how fleeting feelings can be, how actually like so airy like a bird they are, that can imagine a bird sitting on your head and then just flying away at a spur of a movement. So there are 9 emotions in Navrasas. The first emotion is Shringara, which is love. Second, we can take Hasya, which is humor. Third, we can take Raudra as anger. And maybe we can take fear, Bhayanaka. And there are other emotions. So right now, if we just take these 4 emotions and just in the body, just feel it. So I'll just tell you very basic details of how to embody the emotion as an artist, as a theater artist. So for love, maybe you can just add a very small smile on your face and have a very fleeting, have a very fluttery eye like this, and like just feel the love on your face. Okay, this is one way to show love, and maybe whoever is interested, you can try with me. So when we get to the activity, we don't have to revise it again. So you can just like smile on the screen and like flutter your eyelids a little bit. Feel that love in your gut.
Mm.
Radhika, I don't see love on your face. I just see a lot of curiosity.
क्या करने का मन नहीं है रे
नहीं, but like, she was completely like, I want to see other people loving. Okay, fine. So whenever it comes. So we can take the second emotion as Rodram. Rodram is anger. For anger, we usually make our eyes bigger and we don't smile at all. Like for Rodram, you need to have that anger. So just like try to bring it. And if it helps, don't look at the screen. Maybe look at something around you and put your anger on that object. It might be easier. Yeah, because Shyam is smiling quite a lot and we might
doing
just laugh.
Hasya.
Yes. So that's Rodram. Hasyam is what Shyam is doing. And then maybe we have fear. So for fear, you can just look around and you can be like, something like this. Got so much fear. So these are the 4 emotions. And now I'll just look away from the screen, look at an object, just try to feel that emotion. You don't have to bring it up on your face or anything, but try to feel that emotion in a body. But because this practice is essentially to understand how feelings are very floaty in nature and you can sense it in the body. So I'll just say the first emotion and just like 1, 2, 3, hasyam. Rodram. Love, Shringar. Bhayanakam, fear. Was there anything that came up? And it's not important that something comes up. It's just a like a quick activity. But anything came up? Anything do you feel?
I'm getting only hasya.
You're getting only hasya. Yes. But do you sense it in the body? Do you sense the laughter
yes.
in the body?
I feel we don't need to express. You can just sit and feel it.
I could feel.
Yeah, Ranjini ji, you're saying something? Yeah, you.
Yeah, I could sense shame going together with fear.
Shame going together
Shame
with.
and fear.
Yeah, that's actually a very important point that you've made, because in a lot of sessions, we do understand that how shame and fear are actually friends, and they go together and sort of make friends with anxiety further down the road. So yeah, and what Shyam said, that maybe we don't need to express, maybe it's a feeling and we just feel it in the body. Yeah, that's there, and
I
that's
think
how
one
our.
difference is subtly in the eyes, eyelids opening and closing is happening. And also heartbeat, maybe this subtle change in the heartbeat when you feel fear or anger, there's a little rise in the heartbeat. Whereas when you're happy, it's more, uh, that much of difference is there. For those who are not those are non-theatrical.
Yes, and that's the thing.
But
That is
also,
where it all starts, right? Because in theater, we are just exaggerating what we feel in our daily life. It's not something that is built upon a different concept altogether. It's built upon this. So what I showed to you was an exaggerated physical response. But what Shyam mentioned right now, it's what we feel on a daily basis. And the point is just to understand that how emotions are deeply, deeply embedded in the body. Every time we don't pay attention to a certain emotion that is affecting us deeply, there will be a very intense physiological response from it that we might not understand in the moment, but it just keeps coming to us. And that is how our thoughts also start to get entangled in our physiological state. For example, if you have actually there's a lot of studies that suggest that a lot of autoimmune disorders come up in people after a certain age, because a lot of suppression of grief and anger has happened in their formative years. There's now just too many studies that has confirmed this. So what Radhika was saying initially, that emotions are deeply, deeply embedded in the body and they are very subjective to each of us. They are automatic responses. So now that we understand a little bit what emotions are, maybe let's take a step ahead and get to what do we think difficult emotions are?
Or
Because
maybe what is the difference between a good emotion and a difficult emotion? How do we bucket them?
yeah, so there is no good and difficult emotion, but there are difficult emotions and there are easy emotions, maybe. But it's
Hmm.
I kind of shy away from using these adjectives of good, bad, easy, difficult a little bit, because unless we have a relationship with difficult emotions, we would not have a relationship with easy emotions, because there are relatively no easier emotions. Love is not an easy emotion. Happiness, joy is not an easy thing to feel. And even if we cognitively are able to feel a certain joy, are we really, really feeling the joy? When we look at a flower and it makes us happy, like, wow, what a symmetry, wow, what colors. So different parts of us are feeling happy. Maybe the artist is feeling happy within us. Maybe the mathematician is feeling happy by looking at the symmetry of the flower. Biologist is feeling happy. So there are different parts in us. But is there a holistic level of
No,
happiness?
this
Yeah.
feeling good and feeling, I mean, there's a good feel and a bad feel, right? At least that much.
No, that's how
Because
we.
the body feels good, like you, I mean, there's some sense of airiness, lightness, expansion, the sense of when you feel love, the sense of expansion, it's going beyond your body. You're embracing an animal or someone. There's a sense of lightness. It feels, I don't know. I want to understand why are you, I mean, this good feeling and not so good feeling. Like when you feel threatened, you immediately shy away, kind of shrink. Um, I mean, I look at it as feelings that you look for, you crave for, can be called good. Feeling that you reject or feeling that you don't want to embrace can be put into this bucket of difficult emotions. How do you look at it?
So when we basically when we demarcate between amongst emotions like that, no, something that we are looking forward to and something we are trying to evade, what it creates is a separation. And what I, in my practice and in my work, I I I sort of move away from that separation, because I feel that unless we have intensified the understanding of grief, we do not intensify the understanding of love. So, my agenda here right now is to understand what is surface level at a cognitive level versus what is deeply felt. So, of course, there is a general bodily tendency and our psyche's tendency to move towards more comfort and familiarity, and like validation is a big one. But then what happens is it sort of skews our relationship with emotions. Then what happens is we almost always try to look for situations where suffering is evaded, where sadness is evaded. But that's the thing, if we don't sit with them as a together wholesome preparation by nature given to us, then we sort of try to look for situations else, and that's where then bias also comes in, because life is going to throw pelt stones at us. And I think, Sham, you were only telling me a few days ago, no, that it's good to be ready, because if there is nothing bad happening in life right now, maybe it's good to be ready and create your own challenges. So in a way very similar to that. So in our understanding and our basics, I feel it's important to look at these things from a very holistic lens rather than a separating lens. So it's not that suffering is lesser than happiness. It's not like that. So yeah, I think somebody had raised their hand.
Siddharth is asking, how is breath related to emotion or feeling? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a very, I mean, very interesting area. Because immediately when you notice yourself when you're in a negative, or I mean, I don't know how to use this adjectives in front of Ankita. When you are in that difficult emotion, um, the breath kind of shortens. Just notice for yourself, no, when are you happy or when you're in front of an ocean or top of a mountain or in a high situation, then the breath is more deeper. Whereas to when you're scared or when you're uh, anger, the breath is shorter. which is very important to understand because we can do reverse engineering, where when you're feeling when you're feeling a difficult emotion, you can change the breath, hence you can change the emotion. What do you think, Ankita?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it, that we can control our breath because that's the only thing that we can really control.
Regulate, yeah.
That helps in regulation of feelings and emotions. And to answer your question that how is breathing associated with emotions and feelings, a very beautiful story I read recently comes to mind. So it's just a very short story. I'll tell you that this one time there was sermons going on, and so Buddha, the prophet of the religion Buddhism, he was sitting with his disciples, and one of his disciples asks him the question that how long is life? How long is my life? And the other people, they are answering that, oh, like one is undying, so maybe we never die, so life is as long as life is. And then somebody says that maybe I have another 20 years to live, or 8 hours or something. And upon us, like listening to this various responses, this one thing that Buddha says is that our life is just the duration of one breath. Every time we take a breath, we take an inhale, send out an exhale, there is a pause, there's a nanosecond before we get into another inhale and exhale. So all our life, all our feelings, all our emotions, thoughts, everything rests in that small duration. And that's why when we learn to be with our breath, be more present with our breath, that's when we learn to also be more present with our thoughts and feelings. And I'm not saying that we can control our thoughts and feelings because that comes much later. The first step is to recognize. And like right now, there are what, 30, 40 odd people here. We all are individuals and we are also part of a group. But from that individual stance, we are all at very different levels of recognizing our inner states, having a relationship with emotions. What is our default emotion? Do we tend to be happy all the time? Is there joy is our default emotion? Or anxiety is our default emotion? Do we get overwhelmed very easily? Or fear is our default emotion, from where the anxiety arises, that, oh, I'm always protective of myself and my loved ones. So do I think like that? Do I look at the world from that lens? So this,
Very interesting. Do we all carry, at any point, are we holding any, at any point, are we holding some emotion all the time? Or is there also a neutral space where there's nothing at all?
so like so how do I tell you? So imagine that, like, there's a river that is flowing with thoughts
Hmm.
and feelings. So there's a river of emotions that is flowing. Now every time, and you have a hut beside the river. So every time you're not going to listen to the gurgling sound of the river, right? You're not going to tap and engage with the river. But the
Right.
river is always flowing. That's what I mean by what is your default emotional state? What is your sthai bhava? what
Oh.
what is stable for you, like, and it is something that one, like, after this session maybe you can go back and ponder, because it's not something that we can ponder in a minute here. That what is our default state, what is the emotion that we usually fall back to, and nothing about this should come from a place of judgment. That's a very important rule, as a rule of thumb, that we should follow when we are looking at our inner states. Whenever we close our eyes and push our eyes backwards, inwards, to the mind, to the body, this one thing is like something that you need to etch in your rule book, that there shouldn't be any judgment. Because what happens is that when we judge or when we opinionate, it's a very natural tendency towards something, right? That I'm looking at myself, oh, I feel so sad and tired today. And if there has been a certain stern conditioning in my formative years, there can be a cynical voice that will tell me that oh, are you that weak? Do you really think that being sad and tired is a reason enough to not step out today? So to be able to separate myself from this cynical voice, I have to make this rule for myself that I will not be judgmental, because this is a judgment voice. This is a voice that is cynic, that is a cynic that we carry within us. And that voice is also helping us. It's not like it's not helping us. It helps us in many situations.
Yeah.
So this is something that we can try by ourselves. Before we move ahead, are there any?
One second, Ankita. I just had a question on this. You just said that we have to have a thumb rule that there should be no judge.
Yes.
But the judging is also is one of the archetype emotions, which has come from somewhere, obviously, through our conditioning or whatever. So wouldn't the same thing hold good for that too? Just if I observe the judge and see where is this judge coming from?
Yes.
Instead
Yes.
of telling no to the judge and shunning him and covering him up, which may again pop up somewhere. If I observe the judge, it may give me more insights to from where that whole thing is coming, story, the narrative.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And to that logic only, the reverse psychology will work, Jayashree, that we are not judging the judge. We are not at all. We are just choosing not to engage with them at the moment. Because right now, what in this context right now, where this discussion is happening, we are trying to understand what our fundamental emotion is. Where do we lean onto? And of course, like the inner critique, it's a very, very big concept that once you start, when you start your inner work, when you start working with your emotions, inner critique work is one of the most primary work that we do in that journey. Because if we don't take that journey with our inner critique, then the voice will not let us have any progress with our own selves. So that is there. That is a very important concept. But in this particular context, we can hold the hand of the judge and be like, I'm going to come back to you in a bit. Right now, I'm just looking for my sky bhava. Can you help me with that? So having this cordial relationship, having a sense of humor in this journey, because I feel that this is also important to understand that we tend to take ourselves very seriously, and we tend to take the situations that surround us very seriously. And I think Ranjani ji was saying in the beginning that this concept of attachment and impermanence, when I recounted the story of the Buddha, and that the duration of life that we have is just for that one breath, it actually suggests the concept of impermanence. That the distance between our life and our death is just that one breath. This breath that I'm taking, maybe I won't take the next breath, and that separation is logged, right? I'm not alive anymore. So we have to like just sit with these philosophical inquiries, and these philosophical inquiries, these are important to sit with, I feel, because they are very embedded in our bodies and in our minds. It's not something that's flying across. It's not something which is abstract. It's not something like capitalism or market concepts that you can shun. It lives within us. So these are some important inquiries that we like. It's up to you. You have to sit with it. Are there any further questions before we get to negative bias and understanding more about that?
Maybe you could respond to the person who talked about the breath and its relationship. That's a very important question.
Yeah,
how the breath is related to the emotion.
Yeah, that is how, like, I thought I'll just summarize the answer again. It became too expansive, but that one breath is, if we associate it with a fleeting feeling right now, like right now I'm feeling very sad, and I'm choosing to pay attention to my breath instead of paying attention to the feeling of sadness. So if I'm just choosing to breathe right now, choosing to just take one breath in and one breath out, and maybe do it for 10 repetitions, most of the times the intensity of the feeling, whatever feeling there is, it reduces. And it's not just for difficult emotions, it's also for emotions of happiness and joy. Because
Anxiety,
because there's an elation, that level of elation that we feel, and it's all hormonal, right? It's like whenever we are feeling that sense of joy, excitement, adrenaline shoots up in our body. So what breath really does is it really regulates, it brings back control in our command. So that's how it's like breath is the direct bridge to our emotional states. So it's
Question is, when you're happy, will you still try to regulate your breath and focus on your breath and try not to feel happiness? Because all
The practice,
of our life, we've been told to live, I mean, for happiness or joy or thing like that. No, now how do we look at this?
I think it has more to do with observation rather than getting locked with the emotion. We are turning our attention to the breath primarily to understand the emotion.
Yeah.
When you are sad, you tend to focus, you tend to feed the emotion more and more, you look at the emotion more and more, you are getting latched onto it. So when you instead look at the breath, the intensity of the sadness or the joy or the excitement can be observed, is what I feel.
Yeah, what I'm asking is, do we take time to observe when we are in happy state? Like we are lost in the feeling, no? It's so elating, it feels light and nice, and you don't feel like stopping that. You don't feel like क्या बोले? You don't feel like going out of that state. So now my question is, how do we, when we say we have to observe every emotion and try and, I don't know,
Feel
I'm
it
not,
fully, but don't get latched onto it, is what I'm trying to say. Feel it
uh,
fully. Yes, I am feeling happy.
uh,
Wonderful. But
I
let me not get into the cycle of wanting that, more and more of that feeling. That is where the problem begins.
the
Can
whole
I add
life we are
something here?
yes,
told to live for happiness.
yes,
Joy.
Samya, you
Yeah.
wanted.
But
So
isn't happiness, you don't look for happiness. Happiness lies, as in everything lies. We, sorry.
Keep speaking, huh?
Sakshi,
Yes.
Acha.
So, uh, hap- we have defined what is happiness. There's so much to happiness. You can be happy, like happiness can be defined in so many different ways. So when we are very sad, we don't regulate because we are again in that emotion, right? So when we are super happy, we don't regulate. When we step back, our that's the thing. If we can step back, then only we can regulate, not regulate but observe. And even happiness, we think when we are smiling, when we are joyful, is happiness. Happiness can be just being, that's also happiness. There, like, these are all just words, right? We can't get too attached to those words and what they do, I think.
yeah, thank you, Sakshi. Yes, Samya.
yeah. So first thing I want to say was about what Sham was saying earlier, that when you're in a happy state, you're breathing much deeper, and or any other like anger or sadness, your breath tends to like shorten a bit. So, which is actually a very good observation, and that's exactly what happens. We can the reverse what he said, that where you control your breath and make sure that you're in a state of happiness or sadness or anger, all of this is possible. And breath is the easiest to control. It's the easiest. So a simple pranayama, like pranayama, it literally means that you're controlling your life. The basic energy itself you're trying to control. So just by that, even just a 5-minute thing can actually change the very way you look at things. Entire chemistry inside of you can change just within 5 minutes of doing a pranayama. So what he was trying to say was actually works for people. And the I think one of them are asking us, even Sham itself, he asked something like, if you're happy, do you want to watch your breath and stay there?
we can do that for every emotion actually. You can still be angry and watch your breath. You can be happy, watch your breath.
Yeah,
You
that's what I
can,
meant. When we are happy, I mean, I'm not able to put it.
you are trying to hang on to breath because that's the only constant with
Yeah,
you. You're breathing every
yeah.
moment. Anything happens, doesn't happen, you have the
Yeah, I
emotion
think
along.
this is where the
Yeah,
bias comes in, Ankita. I think this is
yes,
where the bias comes
yes.
in, that we
This
are.
is where the bias comes in actually for the question and for the answer as well. Because when we say that when we are happy, would we want to go back and count the breath or instead be happy? Right? So that's a bias for happiness. Because if you go to a melancholia patient, a depression, like a clinically depressed patient, they would not agree to you at all. Because happiness is a state that they cannot feel physiologically. And even if they are in a space where happiness is supposed to emanate from them, everything is in place, their physiology wouldn't allow them to be there. So they can ask you the same question exactly, that ki why, like I'm in suffering, then why do I hold the breath in suffering? This is a more familiar place for me. And so the point being that this bias that we hold as individual people, like for example, this problem statement, and we just jumped to a solution of breath. But what about the in between? What about the place where we don't have a solution? We just have a statement, and we are just sitting with that statement, and we are just observing that statement. Is it taking too much time? Do we have somewhere to be? Is something is happening in this minute? So when we sit and we observe something, even 60 seconds they feel very long. Has this happened to you guys, that like how 5 minutes or a minute even, it feels very different when we are doing something which engrosses our concentration versus something that we are completely bored in doing. Our experience of time changes. So ultimately it boils down to our experience, and the self that is coming up with these questions, with these answers. That self is a construction of the narrative that we come from, because we believe that happiness is the higher state. So, therefore, humanity must sort of maybe bask in happiness because it's coming from a very innocent intention, right? That why not? What is the point of life if not this, right? And what happens is that when we stay with that belief, we sort of negate the suffering. We sort of say that maybe suffering is a lower state. But that's not the point. The point here is to not be attached to any of this. And I think Ranjani ji was saying that, and Sakshi was also saying that, to feel the completeness of emotion, but be okay with its absence in the next moment. That's all. That is the entire game,
One
honestly.
of the things you said, it was quite impactful. I mean, yesterday in the phone call, you were talking about how if no emotion is helping us thrive, it wouldn't be designed by nature. Like every emotion is there because it is there to help us. Or if it is really poisonous, it would have been eliminated by nature. That really was quite powerful. Could you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, that actually brings us to negative bias. So in psychology and neuroscience, we understand that to live in this multifaceted world, we have our cognition sort of trains itself in certain biases. And today we'll just touch upon negative bias. So in the beginning, like Shyam was saying, that we as humans, we have a tendency to collect negative data much more deeply than any positive data. And by negative and positive here, I mean that imagine yourself as a cave person, and you have to be very wary of all the negative data because your predators might be here somewhere. There must be some poisonous berries in the forest. So, to be able to live a longer life, we collect negative data, and it's a survival mechanism that nature endowed upon us. So now in modern times, there are no predators as such. No lion is coming to eat us up. There are no berries that we are plucking from our trees. There are no trees in the gardens even anymore. So we are at that stage. So why still do we carry these emotions, or why do we still carry these negative biases? Why still, like in a performance review meeting, for example, if our supervisor tells us beautiful things, that, oh, your work is amazing, you are so punctual, this, that, so much, and then by the end of it they just add that, oh, that day that thing you wrote, no, it didn't read quite well. So the basic human tendency is to forget all the beautiful things that were told about us just moments ago and just stick to this one last thing. Why do we still carry this negative bias? What do we need protection from in the modern day? Like, does anybody want to go on that?
The sense of self and ego. All of us carry a sense of self and ego. That
Protecting
is where
the
everything
and
is
ego.
hinged.
Yes, yes. Anything else? Sandhya?
And a bit of probably we don't know, we are unsure, but we are carrying something from the past, meaning the generational trauma, which we aren't, able to recognize without the help of experts, or we just read a bit from here and there, and
Yeah.
something already is being wired because brain, it's
Mm,
age old and it's
mm,
there.
mm.
And then
Yeah.
all depends on the thoughts conditioning, at the same time the experiences, and above all, to me, it's the relationship I have with I won't call another person, with I mean all my interpersonal relationships. So there are variations. Being a human, definitely, I'm comfortable with a few, and I also have confrontations or disagreements with others, but this definitely, as said, that it gets intensified, whereas that moment takes me to the grave, that I'm unable to see anything else.
Mm,
The mirror gets distorted, and I'm unable to see. In
yeah.
that very moment, I don't know, breath, or my getting frozen
Mm,
or stop to react or just
yes.
stunned. At times help, or at times it just aggravate the situation. So
Mm,
it's just a play which is happening all the time,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
a bit of time given to it clarifies a few things, but rest is the mystery. That's what
Mm,
I feel.
yes.
So
Yes. Thank you, Sandhya. Yes. Yes, Apurva. You are on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Uh, when we say what are we protecting ourselves from, ego could be one thing, but then there are also these, may not be a lion that is chasing us, but it can also be other people who can hurt us or who have historically hurt us. And then you're protecting yourself either psychologically or even physically from hurt that can be caused because there is the history or the experience of it. And it's also protecting, for example, we are still collecting data that okay, I won't take this road because it's unsafe, I will go this way because driving another way is unsafe. So all that data is still required and we are still protecting ourselves from it.
Yes. 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 Thank you, Apurva. Yes, Sakshi.
So, Ankita, I just want to confirm what you're asking is we have built ourselves such a secured world, and even then, why are we feeling this insecurities? Is that the question that you're asking?
The question is simple, that we know what negative bias is, how evolution embedded it in our system, and why do we really need negative bias even today?
Um, the thing is, it's the truth of life. If we are surviving, if we want things, then we will be afraid of losing them. The moment we don't care about what we have, what we will lose, we will just be free of those emotions.
Yeah.
The more we accumulate, even anything
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
anything will
I
have
think,
those
yeah, it's
attachments.
beautifully
Have that
put, I
fear.
think, Sakshi.
Yes.
The moment, we hold on to protect our earnings or hard earnings or materialistic things or even our own prestige, whatever we've earned through years, when in that mode of protection, I think it again boils down to what she's saying about sense of self and ego. She just put it in just two words. When we're trying to protect them is when these things
Yeah.
uh, we tend to be in that survival mode. Interesting.
Yes.
Yes,
In
because
my
we think we have these things, right? We have this security, or we have this, I don't know, family, this life, this something. Unless till the time we think that we have, we will have the emotion of what if we don't have? If we
Exactly.
don't have that, then we wouldn't have the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
so
True.
Can we
essentially, we are
take a
all operating.
moment? Can we take a moment to probably um, go back to our memory lane and see where have you felt very fearful or very negative about something, but then in reality it was not. It was very you're very okay with it. Like when you look back, when you see it from a larger picture, there's nothing in it. Like say, for example, you see a stick on the road and you feel it's a snake, and your body immediately gets threatened. But then when you realize it's just a stick, then there's some sense of easiness. Can you recollect any incident in your life where something like that happened and you then are able to dissociate from the emotion that you went through? Maybe a couple of you can volunteer and share. And how did you feel before and after?
Every semester result. Yes, Pavani. I think everybody will relate to that. Radhika, you want to add something? Your hand is raised.
Sorry, I'll lower my hand. I'll pause. I think this is a good question too. I don't want to deviate here. I'll get back later.
Usually this happens with pranks also, no? When someone pranks you.
Right?
It many times happens when we are driving, and let's say by any chance there's some a paper bag or something, and when we are in this speed, what happens with like me is we think there's a bird or some animal, but we can't stop because it's too much speed, and we the nearer we are, and when we pass we realize, oh, it was just a paper, thank god. So that's one thing that popped in my.
That rem-
Yeah, for me, judgmental situations, I tend to judge people very quickly.
Hmm.
More so my family members, ये तो
Hmm.
ऐसे ही करेगा.
Hmm.
And then it doesn't turn out that way. Then I catch myself and say, shouldn't have done that.
That's very subtle and beautifully put. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah, judgment is quite something that happens so often.
And self-criticism for me, I'm only self-critic. So let's say I have to speak or present something to somebody or even some work, anything. Because of the self-criticism, you tend to go into anxiety. Like,
Hmm.
I'm probably have not done the best job. This is not good. This could have been better. And after the person, whoever has to see that work, and most of them are like, ah, this is really good. And then you realize how bad you were at your own self and went into all this anxiety more for such a long time.
Hmm.
So
yeah, just like just this, imagine this scenario. I actually like I thought of this, and that in the beginning I'll put up, but then so much interesting discussion started to happen. But just think of this scenario that you are an early riser, and this friend of yours who is very close to you and you deeply trust and deeply love, they are a late sleeper, so they rise up late. So you wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. You see a message on your phone from that person who has texted you at 12 o'clock in the night, and the text reads that please call me in the morning. It's very urgent. Call me ASAP. What will you feel? So you call them and they are not picking up, of course, because they don't wake up that as early as you do. So what between that time when you read the message and the time until you talk, what is the state that you are
Yeah.
going to be in? And just like maybe we can take a moment with this situation and see what comes up for us before we start discussing.
Anxious.
Worry, anxiety.
What else?
What else is coming up? Is
Detachment.
anything
Probably
else? Is anything else coming up apart from worry, anxiety, dread,
I
I'll I'll probably start making up stories in my head.
making up stories in the head, making up
possibilities.
situations?
And most of the possibilities, how do you look at them? Uh,
It'll mostly be not so pleasant ones because
mm,
it says ASAP, and somehow mind jumps to the not so pleasant ones.
mm, Interesting.
So this scenario, this situation, and how most of us will feel worry in this situation because of the framing of the sentence that was done in the message, that there were these keywords, no, call me ASAP, it's urgent. So how our brain categorizes these words is it categorizes it in the bucket of fear, that anything that somebody, we don't have more information about what this urgency is, why are they saying to call as soon as possible. It could very well be many other things. Like if you expand your vision and just imagine the kind of possibilities that can happen, it will almost be like a 50-50 thing unless we add context into it. Matlab, if we add the kind of person this is, the kind of stories or what they are going through, we just remove all that details, just simply look at the situation. It could very well be that they passed through their PhD entrance and they want to tell them, so on call only, yeah, I want to call and tell you in the first thing in the morning because that'll make me so happy. Or anything random. I'm getting married. Yo, raat mein, there was an engagement that happened. I wanted to show you my ring. So anything, right? Out of the blue. It could be very sad and grievous in nature as well. But why does our mind automatically move towards worry? And like, this is a very important question. Yes, Shinu. You're on mute if you're saying anything.
Hi. So, while I was growing up, my parents would only, call me in an urgency when things were looking really bad or when I was going to be scolded. And hence, whenever messages like this would pop up, including words like as soon as possible, or they would induce that worry and that fear again. And I would remember what my parents did to me while I was growing up, and I would expect the same out of the situation and recreate what I felt before in today's world and today's life.
Yes.
Yeah.
mm.
Yes, thank you, Shinu. Yes, the importance of our formative conditioning. A lot
Yeah.
of us brought up conditioning. That's there. Yeah. Yes,
I
Shyam.
have some catch here. And the same situation when the friend says, you are so tense for 3, 4 hours, you're so worried. It reminded me of one of the situations. My mom usually doesn't call me often. So recently there were like 7, 8 missed calls. I haven't seen the phone for, it was on silent. And suddenly the heart was beating high. And then I call her and she says, "What is the OTP of HP gas?" I was like, "Eda Pavi." That release, no, that release is also such a joy. This you went down so much and suddenly there's nothing, and then you feel so happy that there's also something following that dip is what I'm trying to.
Yeah, yeah. And that brings us to a very important question, that is this tendency a bad thing? Is this negative bias then is a bad thing? Because does it not protect us from, not protect, but does it not connect us to other people more beautifully, more in depth, more like it's, I like to worry about some people. I like to take care of some people, be concerned about some people in a way that this experience, like what just Sham said, this will not happen with like tons of people, right? It will happen to only very close peoples in our relationships. So then this pertinent question of, then is negative bias a bad thing? It helps us be connected to our tribe. It
I think
helps
we
us.
should sit with this question. Why has nature chosen this to let us into this fearful state in that condition? Like how is it helping us perform the task? Like say, for example, if a lion is running, when we are in fear, what exactly is happening in the physiology that is helping us survive from that a lion chasing us? What is happening to us? Can maybe we can sit with that.
Well, the negative bias is not about that being in front of the lion and the lion chasing us. The negative bias is about being like making sure that we have enough information that the lion is approaching so we can go hide. That is the
Mm.
survival dig, actually. Because
Yeah.
when, and to answer your question, when a lion actually might be chasing us, there is
Mm.
a shock response that fear
Yeah.
drives in us. And
Mm.
suddenly we all must have heard stories about superhuman abilities when we are running so fast, when we start to climb trees without knowing ever how to climb trees, or we do these very bizarre things to be able to protect our body. And in these situations of fear and anger, all of these situations, when they come up, they sort of tend to come up as protectors, as guardians. So that is why negative bias is actually guarding us against all of this. And the wilderness hasn't really gone away. So just because we understand wilderness as forests and greenery,
Mm.
that doesn't alter the real definition of wilderness. This world is, every time, at every moment, it's a wild, wild place. And even having all these concrete buildings, for example, just imagine that you get a wild animal to New York State and just leave them there. They will go crazy because it's a wild state for them. It's not a natural place for them anymore. So, what is wild for us may not be wild for the other. And same goes for city people versus tribes people, right? So the wilderness never really goes away. This predator thing that Sham just asked, that we are running away from the predator, and how does negative bias translate into the body? This same
Shock.
analogy,
Yeah.
we
I
just
think
leave
it just
the
intensifies our presence, more
our,
alertness. Yeah,
yes,
I think more
yes.
alertness is what.
We are more alert, and our other processes in the body that usually do not come up, hell, it comes up in those situations to protect us. Because by the end of it, we are animals, and our most primal instinct is to save the body. Nobody cares about your thoughts, your feelings, or anything when that comes like a lion face, a black panther is facing you face front. You
Yeah.
wouldn't be caring about, oh, that person did not reply to my text. Yeah, what the hell? No, you would just be scared for your body, and your mind will just have those two, three looping thoughts. Ki, can I jump off this cliff here? Am I going to die from that or this? Can I run behind? Am I going to die from that? Is the panther going to chase me? So there are only these two, three ideations that we can actually perform with. There's nothing else that takes over our body and mind. And that actually is a brilliant example to suggest that how thoughts and feelings they are very, very fleeting in nature. They are very, very jumpy in nature, and they can actually, they have the capacity, and we have the capacity to alter them with each breath. And I feel, yeah, negative bias is important, that is there. But I think towards the end, one very important question that I want to close the session with in a way is that if negative bias is so embedded in our body, in our systems, then is peace then automatic? If fear, worry, all of these emotions that arise from negative bias, if that is so natural to us, then peace as a state, is it automatic, or is it something that we have to work with, that we have to practice for?
Hmm. Why did you choose only peace? Why not any other?
Because it's a neutral state. It's not, it doesn't entail joy, it doesn't entail, so in the spectrum of emotions, the midpoint is always
I mean,
peace.
it's a place where you're okay with anything to happen.
Yeah, equanimity, like is
Okayness.
the
Yeah.
word. Equanimity is the word, like a calm state of mind, an okay state of mind. The
Yeah.
word, the real word is equanimity, but it
Mhm.
translates into peace and calm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think this session was not about getting to conclusions. Um, I think, I mean, sitting together, there were some questions, interesting questions arised, and it's probably we can take another 5, 6 minutes and see what is your takeaway. What is the question that you feel like sitting with for the next 1 week or so? So I think that could be an interesting way of ending this session today. Anything else, Ankita?
No, just this, like this question, just like
Yeah.
something that I want to give, like just close the session with in a way, so that we sit with this question. That if
Hmm.
we are so trained by nature and evolution to have a certain direction, negative biases for ourselves, then the state of calmness, the state of peace, equanimity, is it something that is natural, that will naturally come to us, or is it something that we have to practice every day and observe our emotions and be with our emotions, be more present, less judgmental? So
Yeah.
that is, I think, the biggest funneling down that is alive for me. Yeah.
So please feel free to share any interesting takeaways from this session so that, we
So,
get to see each other's perspectives. Yeah.
Yes, Radhika.
when you were talking about emotions, Ankita, especially when you said we don't want to bucket it as positive and negative, one thing that just flashed was everything exists in duality, uh, good, bad, or angry, and then very happy, being very excited or terrified, and everything. So all of this is a swing, right? Either it comes because of our liking towards something or disliking. So when the disliking grows stronger, you have aversion, and since you have aversion to it, the feelings are more stronger. It either goes a lot towards being fearful, terrified, a lot other so-called uncomfortable emotions. And when you have strong likingness, then you are happy, excited, elated, so many other things which are more comfortable for you, but it is because of strong attachment. So somewhere I feel when all of these feelings just expose how strong your liking is, or how strong your disliking or aversion is. So every feeling tells you where in that pendulum you are in terms of liking and disliking, and once we start observing it, we get to know. So I think the more we start to process it, I think we'll get to a state where we are close to that equanimous, spot
Yes,
where
yes,
we are seeing that, yeah, I'm growing. I don't know why. I think I have strong attachment when somebody praises me. Oh, I'm looking for this sort of, compliments, or maybe, I don't like somebody saying this. And then when you start observing this, then you question as to why do I have this? And once you start observing, probably the next time that appreciation comes, you don't feel a lot about it. And I feel every feeling we just need to start observing, so that there is some questions that is coming to see why I am having a strong attachment, or why I'm having disliking towards it. And
yes,
that will help us, see where we are, and probably grow from there to where we want to be, or at
yeah,
least acknowledge that I have this strong likingness or dislikingness.
yes.
Beautiful,
Thank you,
beautiful.
Radhika. That exactly what this question was entailing, that it's a journey to equanimity, and very beautifully put. Like, unless we take the first step and observe the first emotion that is coming for me right now, there won't be a second step. So it's always a journey. And because we are not naturally trained to have these inclinations, it's a journey that we have to consciously take. And it's a beautiful journey, of course, because then, like somebody said in the beginning, I think Ambika ji said that I am angry versus I am feeling angry. There is like so much difference between the two statements. That I am not anger itself. My head is not blowing out of proportions. I am just feeling. A part of me is feeling angry, and I can always separate from that. And same goes for happiness. That, oh my God, I'm so happy. I feel like I could die. No, no, no. Yeah, like there's a separation, that if that happiness goes away in the next second, I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to be melancholic. So that's beautifully put. Thank you, Ratika. Yes, Bhavani.
I just posted an image on chat. I don't know whether it's coming up. Yeah, I think it's uploaded now. I want to give people the spectrum of nervous system where you have the flight or flight, and you have your like immobilized state, or like hypoarousal, where you are just depressed, soggy, foggy, all of those things, and there is the neutral. This is your new, like, natural nervous system state. And when we were cavemen or cave women, when we were chased by the lion, we would be we would be chased, and we will go hide ourselves to a safety place. And from there, we don't have much anything else to do. So our nervous system have to come down to a neutral state. There's no other option. But right now, the problem is something that was so natural to us. What happened is we have so many distractions right now that the amount of time that we spend on sitting with something has reduced. We have a lot of distractions. Therefore, it doesn't matter whether you go to hyper or hypoarousal, the neutral is never being met. And that's been the biggest problem right now with the world of emotions, which is why we are all paying for therapists and everybody to have time to sit with those emotions and then process them properly. I think that's where, whether peace is a natural state or not, yes, it's natural, but it has become so unnatural because we are not giving it enough time.
Yes, yes, exactly. Thank you, Bhavani. Very well put. That we live in such a state of wilderness right now, like so much capitalism, so much market consumerism, that there is actually no time to sit with ourselves and be present and be like looking at a leaf for hours. There is no time to do that. And actually, it is like that, that we are paying to like a person, and just to cap that window, that 1.5 hours for ourselves to just sit with. It's like a checklist, it's like a task that we do. So the real question ultimately it comes down to for us is that how do we make more pockets of presence, make more pockets for ourselves? Because wherever we walk, our inner states walk with us. Whenever we are going down the staircase, it's not like that we left our emotions in the living room and we are going to the office. No. So the act of being present is a practice. It's a conscious practice. Right now, like when we are walking down the stairs, we are taking 10 flights of stairs, then we can be present in our walking, as little as how our steps are going in each step. as little as how much am I breathing with each step. So these are the pockets that are actually there for us. Because if we start looking externally, that in this 24 hours day, this time, 10
I
minutes, I will put
am
this.
sorry to interrupt, Ankita. I'm just wondering, just this thought came, were our ancestors very present back then
Yeah,
when they
because
didn't
there were not
have?
a lot of distractions, right? And today, even you go to villages, no, very remote villages. Like I was
Hmm.
in Ladakh for a very, very long time. And one thing that I learned from the villages there is that most of their household chores and work, they wake up at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning,
Hmm.
and most of the household chores gets done by 12 o'clock. There are not a lot of distractions like us. Like there's not a cafe to visit to, there's not a activity pottery that they are going to do. It's mostly community based engagements. So
Hmm.
from 12 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the night, it's mostly engaging with yourself, doing some ritualistic things, saying your prayers, hanging out with your friends. So everything then weaves into a moment of presence. It's not just being present with ourselves, also
Yeah.
being present with nature, with friends, with communities, which in a way heals and finds ways to reach ourselves, our inner states. Yes, Radhika. Maybe we can take a last couple of questions and close. It's 9.
Yeah.
Yes, Radhika.
I just wanted to say plus one to what you just mentioned. They were more observant. I'm not sure about awareness exactly, but definitely more observant about what is happening around, how things look when they are just coming up, or how they transition. And so many, they were so sensitive about what's happening in the nature that they can just look at the sky and say what is going to happen. Look at the land and say how is the fertility of the land. Look at plant and say whether it is gonna soon breed or catch something and things like that. They definitely were more observant of what was happening around.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, Radhika. Yes, Shinu wanted to add something.
It's actually a question. So I live in a very small village called Dharamkot, and yes, people are more present and people are more aware. They're more conscious. But at the same time, when we talk about nature, for example, this year, and it's a little sensitive topic for me. So this year, the locals with the forest department ended up killing two bears. Okay, right. And one bear they killed because it attacked humans. The second bear they killed because it killed two cattle, right? And this particular bear was a mama bear and with a small baby, right? And knowing that these people are aware and can be present, yet things like this they turn a blind eye to. In fact, sometimes even conspire against. And uh, I'm a very emotional person, and this scares me because even in smaller villages, the idea of control or the idea of protection can turn out to be so heinous and so uh, disgusting that I'm sorry, uh, but it ends up being just very ugly. And in spite of their presence and their calmness and their awareness, things like these are so normalized in today's society where people forget that we are not the only beings on this earth. We share our planet with so many other creatures, with so many other lives, and our prej- preju- our
Yeah.
privilege and our prejudice makes us do things on the name of protection, where instead of protection, we're just hurting.
Yeah.
And so that's about it.
Thank you for sharing that, Shinu. It must be very difficult for you to be
Yeah, and
with
because it's a
that.
smaller village, I thought that things like this would be less in comparison to bigger cities. I come from a bigger city, and initially it was really great, but later on, the more I lived here, the more I realized that they're not very different.
Yeah,
And
it's the
fear
peril of
drives
the modern world. We are very similar people. We have very similar systems. It's just the scale of everything different. That's the difference.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
Mm,
for sharing that. I hope you feel better and things
Thank
change.
you. I hope things change. I really do. But if they don't, I think I'm gonna stand up for it anyway.
Yes, incredible.
Thank you for saying it. We need to stand up
Yeah,
for the lesser, beings, or beings that are considered lesser. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying that. Yeah, they are better beings than.
yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, everybody. It's such a beautiful and insightful session. And
Yeah, I
session
think,
to क्या ही discussion proper.
yeah. I think this is a very short time for us to discuss this thing, but maybe we'll see if we can sit with these. I mean, continue this
Yeah,
discussions further. But hmm, so the intent of this space is not to come to conclusions or say these are the answers or these are the things that we need to follow, things like that. But somewhere in the discussion, in the 2 hours or 1.5 hour of discussion, some question arises that pulls your attention, and try and sit with that question and see what it has for you, what kind of revelations it has for you. So that's the whole point of doing these sessions. And thank you all for sitting through 1.5 hour and sharing your journeys and your reflections. Thank you, Ankita, for a very short. I mean, it was just yesterday, no? We finalized this yesterday, right?
yeah.
Yesterday, and then we pulled off. Lovely. Thank you for doing this, Ankita. So, anyone has questions, you can stay back. Otherwise, we can call it a day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to both of you and
Thank
everyone
you.
who participated.
Thank you, Ranjini.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.